Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070. Because it is a party.
Absolutely. It's always fun times with Seth.
Live on Facebook. Today we're doing hacking data in Google Sheets.
That's exciting.
It is. I mean, what could be more exciting than that?
Not much. Well, chocolate and peanut butter.
Yeah. How about chocolate and peanut butter while you're hacking data in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets?
Sheer heaven.
I can't have any chocolate in the house. I have no willpower.
Oh.
Wait, hold on. The feed is now live on Facebook. Good morning. Welcome. It's Friday, 8:03 a.m., 10/27/2017, and I've got half a muffin in my mouth, but I can still pull it off. And
Muffin now?
I got my Talk Nerdy to Me shirt on. Brand new. If you want a Talk Nerdy to Me shirt, you got to come to QuickBooks Connect and get one.
Like
So book your tickets. Book your tickets. Let me put the Facebook feed in the Facebook group. For those who don't know how to get out to the Nerd Enterprises Facebook page, I make it easy. And I do it all for you. Do it all for you. And we are live with hacking data in Google Sheets. Wow, I actually typed that as fast as I said it. All right, cool. So, good morning. Welcome. Hi, Jesse, Dennis, Adam,
Morning.
Tiffany, Elizabeth, Larry, Kelly, Gina.
Hi, Beck.
Looking dreamy today.
This is in honor of apple cider time here around here.
Aha.
Yeah, delicious apple cider, fresh from the Amish.
Wow. I bet that's really good.
Amazingly good.
Do they provide donuts?
We get cider donuts, yes, and they are delicious too, but this would be another thing that I'm no longer allowed to have.
All these restrictions.
I know, it's awful. When
cut
you get
down on
old,
that sugar.
things like that happen.
What's that saying? The best way to get rid of temptation is to give into it,
Oh, Dennis. Oh, Dennis.
especially when it comes to chocolate.
That's like saying the best way to get rid of a hangover is to keep drinking. I used to live by, excuse me, I used to live by that philosophy. Especially in my college
I
days.
knew some guys in the service that with a 3-day weekend pass.
Well,
That
I'm
worked
glad you
fine.
gave it up, Seth, because I think you'll live longer now.
It's very possible that I will. It's very possible that I will. All right, I'm going to get started. I want to share my screen. You should all be able to see my boat right about now. And here's what we're going to do. So yeah, I'm all prepared with my Evernote notes. So these were my notes from hacking data in Excel. And by the way, in case you are just catching up with us for the last couple of weeks, we have been doing hacking data in Excel. And you can download the Excel template right on the website where the actual posts are. And for those of you who are not yet familiar with said website, I'm going to show you exactly where to go, just in case it's not 1,000% clear. So we go over to podcasts, and we go to Zoom in with Seth David. And it's also obviously in the most recent post there. But here, you'll get access to the templates. When you click on any of these podcasts or Zoom calls or whatever you want to call them, you'll find the icons. So if you see an Excel icon, that means there's an Excel template to download. And of course, I made it easy for you and linked to part 1 right in part 2 so you can backtrack. And here you can get the original template before I did anything and the finished template in the state that it was at the end of this particular webinar. So everything's here. You can kind of follow it through every stage of development, if you will. Of course, our Zoom calls are sponsored by none other than the world famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated and the 97 Up program. Today's program is sponsored by the number 97 and the letter B+. Anybody know why B+? If you're paying attention and you saw what I posted on Facebook the other day, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Must not have paid attention. I must have been lost in fixing.
Wait, somebody said it. Adam, was that you?
You have to be positive.
Exactly. Be positive. B+. Get a B+ for today. Adam was paying attention. All right, so here's what I'm going to do.
I heard you.
What?
I heard you. You said I got a B+ for today.
You did.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right, so I want to get the original raw template up, right? Because this is the one from at the end of episode 1 that we had already done some stuff with. But the idea here is I want to go back to the beginning, so to speak, and we're going to take the original raw template, convert it to Google Sheets, because I want you to see how easy it is to do that. And then we're going to show you how to do all the stuff we did over the last 2 weeks, kind of the summarized version using Google Sheets. I want to show you, frankly, that you can do all this stuff very easily with Google Sheets. So I actually should have kept my website up.
Ugh.
What's the matter?
I have 189 emails in my main Google account.
Yeah, you better get that boomerang working.
That's my personal life, so I delete 90% of them.
Oh, you have a personal email?
Yeah.
I don't. I use one email for everything. Of course, now we're taking forever to load the page. I actually do have Seth at SethDavid.com, but it might take a week for me to respond to anything on that. All right, so we're going to grab the raw template. Someday. There it is. Let's get it out of my client's cash flow projections folder. Put it right on the desktop. Okay, so first let's open this, make sure it's the right one. I've learned that it's important to do that. I've learned that the hard way. Here it is, the original raw data with the SKU with the Z in front of it. Perfect. Now we're going to open up Google Sheets. I guess I can just do that here. And at this point, I just need a folder to my desktop. And I'm assuming most of you know how to do this, but just in case, or just in case somebody watching at home stumbles on this who doesn't know, we're just going to, here's my local Windows folder. We're just going to drag the Excel file right over to Google Drive.
Oh, shut up.
What?
No, I'm new to the whole Google Drive thing, so.
Oh.
I'm like an old man shaking his cane at you, like.
So I drag it over. Sure enough, it confirms it's uploading that. So here it is as an Excel file, right? If I go to this Windows folder now and I browse over to Google Drive because I have sync on, here it is. I could have just moved it locally and let it upload. But either way, just so you're clear, you know, it's just like Dropbox or anything else. When you install Google Drive, it syncs over. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click the Excel file, and we're going to say Open with Google Sheets. It's that easy.
Seth, how did you link the Google Drive to your desktop?
You just install Google Drive. So it used to be down here at the bottom left corner of your screen. I think now you'll go here, yeah, download, and they're changing it. It's no longer a Google Drive. It's going to be called File Stream. Download Drive File Stream for Windows.
Okay.
So in your settings wheel, you'll do that, and it'll walk you through just like Dropbox might have done if you have Dropbox, or ShareFile when you install ShareFile Sync. Same idea. Now, one tip on that is if you can, get yourself, let me stop sharing my screen for a minute so I can see what you can see. Can everybody see this?
We see your phone, but nothing on it.
No, this is not a phone. This is a 3 terabyte hard drive that's connected to my computer as we speak. Adam has one too. And it's small enough to fit in your pocket, and it fits probably 6 times the amount of information that your hard drive on your computer does. Because most of your computers have about a 500 gigabyte hard drive. This is 3 terabytes. So what I suggest is when you install these services and you get to the part of the installation process where it wants to map to which local folder you're going to sync your files to, sync it to that. I have all of my Google Drive stuff, all of my Box.com stuff, all of my share file, all of my shared services are mapped to that external drive so that I can throw my computer away and not lose a thing. And of course, because they're in these services, they're also synced up to the cloud anyway. So I love that because...
Perfect if there's an emergency and you lose your computer.
Right. I still have that hard drive, and I can plug that hard drive anywhere. And when I plug it into a different computer, it won't be synced to those services, but I can change files, save them there. The next time I plug it into my computer that is synced up, it will sync up, right?
And Seth, what is the brand that you recommend for your...
This is Western Digital, which is pretty common.
That's a good
price.
About $100.
But yeah, it's been a while. They're getting cheaper and cheaper. Storage has gotten so cheap. So yeah, I think I paid $150 for that. And Adam's right. It's probably about $100 now. Just go on Amazon and, you know, of course, everything you buy.
I have a G drive that I like a lot, but I think they're more, the 3 or 5 gig is like $300 or something. So
what kind of drive?
It's called G drive.
Oh, I never heard of that.
And it's just quite good. It's just, I was trying to find something more in the 100, 150 range with more terabytes. So I'll check it out.
Yeah, and this 3 terabytes is more than you'll ever need. I mean, I have all my video files ultimately stored on that thing.
I have 1 terabytes already filled up, so I need some more.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of video.
The other thing you'll want to do, which is why I'm able to do the videos and not load up that drive so badly, is all these services now have an unsync option. So you move it over from your local folder to your synced folder in Google Drive, and then you can go into the folder's options and say unsync this folder. So it will only keep the files on the web. It will not keep them synced to your computer, right? And so, for example, when I've done, you know, when I'm done producing a video or a course, I move that whole course's video files over because you can't render video files in a shared folder. It's kind of like having a live QuickBooks file in a shared folder. It can, you know, it won't render or it won't render properly. So once I'm done, I'll move it over into my synced Google Drive folder. And then I'll go onto the web, and from the web, move the files over to an unsynced folder. And that way it pulls them effectively off my computer or off my external, so I don't have to worry about filling up space with large video files. Okay, let's go back to Google Sheets and stuff. That's what I should have called this. I should have called it Google Sheets and stuff. All right, so here we are, right? We've got that exact same data set, but now we're looking at it in Google Sheets, right? Let's highlight the whole spreadsheet and double-click the right extreme of one column so I can automatically resize it and make sure I'm seeing everything. Now, the first thing that we did last time, or 2 weeks ago, on the first part of hacking data in Excel, was we looked at what if I want to get rid of that leading Z in my SKU number, right? And I was actually concerned because I hadn't recalled ever doing a data text to columns kind of command in Google Sheets. But here's the thing, Google Sheets has been adding more and more features that are consistent with, for example, your keyboard shortcuts in Microsoft Excel. A couple of months ago, you know, if you hit Control and plus on your, you know, in Google Sheets, it's the browser Control plus command is to enlarge the zoom, to make the view bigger, right? But in Microsoft Excel, if I've got a row highlighted and I hit Control Shift plus, that inserts a row, which notice now that's what happens when I do it. Control minus normally would have reduced the zoom in your browser, but now Google Sheets has worked it out that the legacy Excel keyboard shortcuts prevail. So that when I hit Control minus and I've got a row highlighted, it actually deletes a row. It doesn't impact the zoom on the spreadsheet, right? And so if you need to change the zoom, you just go into your menu here in Chrome and you just do it the old-fashioned way. right? Because again, they've changed the keyboard shortcuts. So that's huge, because when I was talking in our Between Will and Main forum and our Slack forum, somebody was saying that one of their hesitations about really moving to Google Sheets was that the keyboard shortcuts that they've gotten so used to. Well, that's no longer an excuse, because you have all the same keyboard shortcuts now. So with that said, what I tried to do was I said, let me use, because I knew this was the case, I said, let me use the old keyboard shortcut command for data text to columns, which is what we were doing in Excel to separate the Z from everything else. And it's Alt-D and the letter E. Alt-D is in data, E is in Excel. And it may be hard to see, but what that did was it triggered the text to columns command, or Google Sheets version of it. So now it's just asking me, and I'd argue this is actually much easier. Google Sheets is now asking me, what do I want to use for my separator, right? Do I want to use a comma, semicolon, period, a space, or custom? So I can use a Z as my separator, but that's not going to help, because now it moves everything over and replaces the category name, right? So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. So you have to plan ahead with this, right? In Excel's data text to columns, I had an opportunity to go in there next and say, don't import that leftmost column where the Z's wind up being in that case. So we can also do the search and replace. I believe it's in Edit, Find and Replace. And remember that this only works because we know that the Z absolutely only will ever appear at the beginning of the SKU number. There's no chance that another Z would appear in a SKU number, right? So we can rely on this and do the same find and replace that we also did in Excel. And so we find Z and replace it with nothing. If I hit replace all, my Z's go away. Notice they're gone now. Any questions? Everybody got that? Cool. So if I wanted to use the separator, I would just have to plan ahead, insert a column to the left. The short way to find it is data, split text to columns. So instead of using the keyboard shortcut, that's where you find the actual command. And again, I would just say custom and make the Z itself my separator. Click away. And that way I didn't lose any data. And now I can just, hold on one second. Now I can just copy this back over. And then, of course, I can remove that extra column. So go ahead, Dennis. What's your question?
Do you know if Google has like a cheat sheet that has the Excel commands with the comparable?
I don't. I don't know of a cheat sheet that Google has for that. It does have great help files. So if we search Sheets Help and we search for keyboard shortcuts, and then go to Browse All Articles, you'll probably find what you're looking for there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I have to say I love about Google, is that you can find help for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
In Microsoft products, I find it extremely difficult to find help anywhere, anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you call help. Especially if you call the helpline.
Yeah, good luck with that. The other cool thing is if you have an actual G Suite account, you have great support. You can call, you can get somebody from this country who's not reading off a script who can actually answer your questions. All whitey then. Let's make it look pretty. I like to have my headers nice and bold, right? I've already got the separator in here. That translated on the conversion because I had it separated like that in, what's it called? In Excel. See, I already forgot about Excel. I'm so in love with Google Sheets. Out of sight, out of mind. What do we want to see? What do you guys want to see me do that I did in Excel? Does anybody want to challenge me and say, I don't think you can do this in Google Sheets?
I'd like to see pivot tables with pivot charts in Google Sheets.
All right, I was going to save that for last, but if nobody else has anything else specifically in mind that you want to see, let me run through some of the basics real quick, because that's obviously a little bit more advanced. So we'll get to there. I don't know if they have pivot charts per se. They definitely have pivot tables, but we'll find out. All right, so first thing, Control-Shift down arrow, Control-Shift right arrow to select the whole data range. You know, all that kind of stuff works. We want to go Data and Filter. Turn on our filters. Works exactly like filtering in Excel, right? Now, if I want to filter by a product category, let me widen up these columns a little bit. Let's say I want to filter by a specific category name. You know, you can see the little funky looking, it's not quite a drop-down arrow like Excel has. It's a little pyramid-looking thing. But you have the same choices. So if over here, let's say I wanted to filter it for grains and cereals, right? First you hit clear, so it unchecks everything. Start typing grains and it autofills. I don't think Excel autofill. Actually, Excel does. It'll auto-filter the list. So I can check that off, click OK, and boom, I've got my list filtered for only grains and cereals. So again, all that's there. And then if I want to clear it, I can clear it essentially by saying select all. Notice here I can also filter by condition, right? So all the same choices that are there in Excel are there here. I can filter. This is based on a text column. So the conditions are based on text. If I want to filter by purchase price, again, I can filter by condition and say, show me everything that's greater than, you know, a certain number, right? And notice here I can filter by specific number. If I say select all OK, so I'm back to seeing the complete list here. We want to add in, so here is the order date. First of all, let's get this looking more like the way I like to see dates, right? So let's go to Format, Number, and we're going to go all the way down to the bottom here where it says More Formats, and then More Date and Time Formats. And now you can really customize the date format all day long. So let's say I want to do, I don't want to do the day as an abbreviation. Let's say I actually want like just month and day, right? So, and I want the month first. So first I'm going to do something like this to get the order. I'll just click on that to get the order more the way I want it. Right, and then I want the sort of 3-letter abbreviation for the month, right? And then I don't even want the day. So if you click carefully in between the two drop downs, you'll see your cursor will be in there, and I can actually backspace it to get that out of there. So I just want month and year. And if I click apply, look what I get. Okay, now we're going to write the same formulas we wrote last time to get the month and year out of this, right? So we want the year and we want the month. This is easy. Equals year, open parentheses, exactly like Excel. Point to the order date, close parentheses. And as a matter of habit, whenever I'm dealing with data, especially when I know I'm heading in the direction of running a pivot table, this is like almost something I just do in my sleep by default. I always want to be able to pull the month and year out of a set of data like this so that I can report on it accordingly. Now the month is a little trickier, so we need to create our table again, just like we did in Excel. So I want 1, take that and add 1 to it so I can just quickly get my 12. January. Autofill. Notice when I move my mouse to the bottom right extreme, it changes to that big plus sign, so I know I'm using the autofill feature, and it recognizes a list of months very easily. And just like we did in Excel, I can name this range, right? So I go to Data, Named Ranges, and we'll call this months. The only thing that Google Sheets doesn't do that Excel does nicely is it doesn't have a keyboard shortcut to insert that named range or give me a list of named ranges when I'm writing the formula. So you have to kind of know what you called it or go back to it so you can go into this dialog and copy it. That's one downside to this. I wish it was better than that. Why can't you be more like your brother? I'll name this tab Tables. Is everybody muted or nobody got that or it just wasn't really that funny?
I got that.
Muted.
We need some audience participation. We're too
I need
quiet.
like a sound effects guy. So like when I say something that's supposed to be funny, they can just like cue up the laughter track. Wait,
Or
hold
the
on.
drum roll. Yeah.
I just looked over and noticed we have chats in here. Oh, everybody's saying good morning. Wait a minute. It looks like we have
Sarah's
people.
joined.
Yeah. Come on in, Sarah. Yay. Okay, so now we're going to write my famous date formula, right? Or at least the month we want the lookup. So equals VLOOKUP, open parentheses, the month of whatever is. Whoa! Hey! Wow!
You asked for it.
Oh, that's what that was. I couldn't recognize what that was. That was a laughter track. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. That's like something right out of Seinfeld. So we're looking up the month of the order date. So remember, that's now 2 to my left. I pointed there. Comma, where are we looking for it? I had it pasted to my clipboard, so Control V to paste that in. And the result is in column 2, so comma 2. And I only want an exact match, so comma false, right? So that's the syntax. VLOOKUP. The first section is what am I looking for? I'm looking for the month of whatever is in column F, immediately to my left. Where am I looking for it? In the table, the range that I named called months. Where is the result? Once I find a match, it's in the second column of that range. And comma false means only give me a result if there's an exact match. If
So you have to actually know the formula as opposed to Excel where you can they've got kind of like a template where you can drop things in.
You lost me on that.
Well, like when you do a formula in Excel, don't they give you a...
Well, no, that's what I said earlier. So normally with a named range, I can, F3 will give me a list of named ranges, right? And that command doesn't exist in Google Sheets.
No, but I mean for the VLOOKUP in Excel, don't you have like when you click on that, the function, they have like a
Syntax.
The syntax.
No, it does give you that. It gives you that. If you pay attention to my screen, when I start typing VLOOKUP, see?
Oh, okay.
It kind of gives you the autofill and for what I'm currently working on, right? So if I back up to just VLOOKUP, open parentheses, it will. And you can click the little help thing to turn on formula help.
Okay.
Right, and now it actually gives you the whole thing.
Okay.
I had turned that off because sometimes this help dialog actually blocks my view. So again, we're going to say look up the month of the order date, close parentheses, comma, in the range called months, comma 2, comma false. And it's telling me that it evaluates to an out of bounds range. That's weird. All right, so let's do it like this. Rather than using that named range, let's just go in and point to this. Oh, it actually somehow looks like my range failed because notice it's no longer acknowledging. All right, so let's do this. Data, named ranges. Somehow my named range didn't take, and I think I know why. I think I forgot to actually hit done. Oopsie.
I thought you broke it.
All right, Adam, you're hired. You're my official sound effect guy. All right, let's try this again. See, we have, and you can see it. It will come up right here.
You know, Seth, I love when things fail. I'm sorry to say that, but you know what? They fail for me on a regular basis, and I want to know how to fix it. So you're fixing this is as much informative as actually doing it.
Gotcha. And sometimes the way to check on this, because now it's giving me a different error.
Yeah,
right?
you forgot to put the month in your table name.
Thank you. Now it's working.
Okay.
So I don't know what, well, I think the initial problem was I hadn't actually properly defined the range because I didn't hit done. So even though I thought I had a named range called months, I really didn't.
Were you
That's the
hoping
problem.
for it to return the written out word, not the 11?
I was hoping for the written word, and that's exactly what I got.
Okay.
See how it says November?
Mhm.
Yeah, in fact, that's the whole idea, because I wouldn't have to go through all that trouble. If I just wanted the number, I could just say equals month of that. And sometimes that's what you have to do to test it. If you are getting an error, write out each individual component. So if I said, okay, I've got my 12, right? Then I would say equals VLOOK, and I don't care what row I'm in. I'm just testing now. So if I want to make sure that the whole range thing is working next, I know I can get the result of 12 out of the second row's order date, right? That's working. So now let's just do a VLOOK, and you can build on it and then kind of consolidate it into a single formula. So I'd say look up that, comma, look it up in the range called months, comma 2, comma false, enter. And now it's getting me December. And then I can go back and say, let's just make sure that's really working. I change it to 5, I get a May, 4, April, 11 is November. So at least now I know the individual pieces are working, right? So you can always test that the individual pieces are working. The only thing that could really fail on this is the table, right? And that's what did fail me initially, is I was using the named range that I hadn't completed naming. Right, and the other thing is, while I am writing the formula, I can bring up this named ranges. If I close this, I think if I go to View or just go to Data, Named Ranges, that brings this up. So even though I don't have the F3 command, I can go to Data and Named Ranges to bring up this dialog, and then I can click in here. Don't click on that, because that takes you over to the range. But if you click the Edit guy, it'll take you over there anyway. But at least then I can Control-C, copy that. Click cancel because I don't actually want to change anything, and then paste it into my formula. So I don't have to worry about typing it out and getting a typo, which can be the other reason my formula crashes, right? Obviously spelling counts here.
Seth, how do you anchor it in Sheets? You know how you can normally do the F4, 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 and it puts the dollar signs in front so that you anchor your cell?
Yeah, I always just do it manually. I was just manually put the dollar signs in. It may be that F4 works. I haven't ever tried it.
Okay.
We can test it here. So if I say equals G3, and then I don't even know how that works in Excel. Like, do you have to click in there first? Because I always just do it manually.
Yeah, you do it like an F2 edit and then F4.
Right, right.
F4 works.
And then,
and then
you can F4 as well, and then it changes where the dollar sign is.
I just did it. And then...
And then you can F4 again, and it would just change. Like it could just be the
I actually hit F3, which brings up my search dialog. Let's try it again. Yeah, okay, so it cycles it. Yes. So at first it makes everything absolute, then just the number, then just the letter, and then back to nothing. So yeah, F4 works.
It didn't used to, so that's nice.
Yeah, like I said, they've been adding a lot of this stuff in the background, I've noticed. You know, obviously to accommodate the Excel lovers who are just diehard Excel and, you know, that inertia, resisting change.
Can you do conditional formatting?
You sure can.
You sure can.
You sure can. So, in fact, I really like the way the conditional formatting works here. So let's say I just want to see all of December light up because we're a minute away from November, and I just want to see what's happening in December. I don't know. I just made that up. But I can highlight this whole range. We go to Format, Conditional Formatting.
Okay.
And you can do single color, you can do a color scale on the formatting results. You can, and then of course the conditions. If the cell is not empty, what does the cell contain? You know, all the different conditions. It's recognizing that I have something that's sort of date-based here, right? So I could say date is after today, tomorrow, exact date. Let's say I want to see everything after 12/1. Well, these are these are years. Let's just say 05. Click done. It's not going to get a result because these are just the months. So then I can delete that, and we could do it over the order date. New conditional formatting rule. And I like this how it just leaves the dialog up there so I can really play with it. So initially notice it says if the cell is not empty, it lights it up in green, right? And I can say date is after exact date. Let's just say 6/1/05.
You picked date as before.
Oh, thanks. Well, see, it still worked. And then, of course, you can change. It has default formatting styles to make it easy. Excuse me, or you can just do your own. right? Really easy to do. Okay, so now we've got our months and years. So again, while I'm doing this, so we've seen, just to compare what we went over in Excel, we've seen the data text to columns, which frankly was the thing I thought would be the most challenging thing to sort of compare in Google Sheets, but it works very well. I've now shown you the filters. That all works beautifully. All right, we've done the formulas, the date-based formulas, so that we can get the reporting that we really want. So I'll go into pivot tables next, unless anybody else has any other questions.
How about nested if statements?
Yeah, I mean, you can write if-then statements. So if you can write if-then statements, you can make them nested as much as your brain can wrap around, you know, what you're at and what level you're at, you know. And by that, I just mean, you know, it's very easy to get lost in the nesting.
Yeah, I think Excel has like about 7 levels or something like that, as I recall.
Yeah, I've never tested the extent of it, but yeah, I mean, you have if-then formulas in Google Sheets, so you can certainly do it.
Okay.
What I like is in Google Sheets, if I'm not mistaken, is you can actually add layers. Not like, you know, in Excel, you have to kind of do it all in the one string. Right. In Excel, I think you can actually do it in layers and take them on and off.
Oh.
You lost me on that one. If
in Excel, when you do your if, so then you have to do if bracket, then you have to put your whole string of data in there to do your if ands. But I think in Excel, you can actually add layers onto your, yeah.
What I've always done,
how I did it.
Even in Excel, is let's say I have a complicated nested conditional I'm planning to write. I'll write one part of it and then put like ones or zeros in the results of the parts I'm not ready to write yet, just to make sure that my logic works. And then I'll go in and change the 1 to the next nesting or the 0 to the next nesting. So in other words, if I want to write a conditional statement here that tests whether or not the unit purchase price is over $100, what I might do is say equals if point to the unit purchase price greater than 100, then, and I don't want to get into what to do next. So I'll just put, if it is over 100, give me a 1. If it's not over 100, give me a 0, right? Just to keep it simple. So now, as long as I know I got the right result of 1, now I'll go back in and tell it what to do when it is over 100. So I'll say, if it's over 100, give me the word over 100 in quotes, right? Otherwise, it's still going to give me a 0. That works. Then I'll go in and change the 0 to what to do in that case, and I'll say quotes under 100, right? So that way, if the price is 90, that should work. Then I'll go in, and if really what I want it to do, once I know that it's over 100, is have it test the quantity. So over here, then, instead of under 100, is where I want to do the next test. So you see how that's how I build on this stuff. It makes it much easier to write the formulas when you do it this way, right? Otherwise, it's very easy. Trying to write it all at once, I lose my train of thought, and I blow the whole thing out in the process, right? Very easy for that to happen. So now I want to test, if the price is over 100, I want to test, is my quantity over 10? So now I just write another, then if the quantity greater than 10, again, I'll do, if it's greater than 10, give me a greater than 10, quote, otherwise, give me a 0, because maybe I don't know yet what I want it to do. And this is where you can get really lost, especially when now we're into the nesting part.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to keep track of where you are with your parentheses. I think that's right. I closed the parenthesis around the second if statement. So now this is giving me over 100, but so what was the thing? If it's not over 100, then test the quantity. So let's say this is 90. And now it does test the quantity and says, okay, it's under 100, so the quantity is greater than 10. So now what I'd probably do here is expand on that and say price over 100, quantity, QTY, greater than 10, right? So I have a somewhat meaningful result here. Got that? And now if the quantity is 5, then it gives me a 0, because that means I'm getting to this part of the formula. So here I would just put, in fact, let me save some time because I'm lazy and I don't like to type. So here we're going to say price is over 100, quantity less than 10. So I'll copy the whole thing and then just change from greater to less. And it didn't like what I did. You know why? Because I forgot my quotes. Nope, still don't like what I did. Let's back up. And that's why I like to do this in pieces. So now instead of 0, we're going to do this whole string. So this whole string needs to replace the 0, and then I just need to replace the word greater with the word less. There we go. That worked. So price over 100, quantity less than 10. Make this 20, and it says quantity greater than 10. Right, so now we've played with nested conditionals.
Can
Now,
it do macros?
Yes, but it has a different script. It doesn't use VBA, it has Google script.
But I mean, can you do like a record a macro like you do Excel?
No, I don't think you can record. You have to just learn the code and write it.
Okay.
So, and these are not things that sort of, I mean, now we're really into like writing formulas instead of just looking at what Google Sheets can do compared to Excel. But I guess the point really is, let me redo that. The point really is that it can do all this stuff, right? Some of it handles a little differently, but yeah, like even if you go into tools and you go into the script editor, that's where you go to create a macro. And as you can see, there's no like record option. So that gets a little techie, and now you need to learn, essentially you need to learn a programming language to get into that. Let me check in on Facebook real quick to see if we have any comments from the Facebook peanut gallery. We don't. Actually, nobody's really watching on Facebook. I must have bored people on Facebook today. Well, that's sad. We did get a couple of reactions. Okay. Well, forget you, Facebook.
Now, Seth. People watch this later, too.
That's true. That's true. All right. So, ready to do pivot tables, or we got more questions? You got questions, I got answers. All right. So, let's go to data and pivot table. See that? And from here, it's very similar to what Excel does. It's just, it looks a little different, but same concept. This is almost a little easier to follow because I'm going to go through here and it's saying, all right, I want to add a field to the rows. I want to add a field to the columns. Let's start with the value, and let's go with order total. Wait, do we not have an order total here? Hold on a second. Could have sworn we had an order total. No, we need to get an order.
Quantity.
What?
Oh, ignore.
Yeah, we need to calculate the order total, right? Because we have the unit purchase price and the quantity. So just take that times that. Let's format it like a real number. All right, and then go here. Values, order total. Okay, and now in this case, what Excel would be doing at this point is it would just give you a grand total of everything. This won't do that. It won't give you anything until you kind of give it something to work with. So now what we want to do is for the rows, let's do like category name. Now we start getting the order total by category, right? Now for the columns, I want to add year. Nice, right? Let's add another field in the columns for the month. And initially it puts the month below the year, which is exactly what we want, right? But if I wanted to reorder any of this, notice when I move my mouse over it, I can click and drag this and I can say, show me by month and then within that by year, which I think we looked at this version of it in Excel and said, you know, this could be useful if I want to see comparative data and see April of 2005 versus 2006, right? That's the beauty of pivot tables. Now I'm
How
going to
about
switch
a-
it back.
How about a calculated field in a pivot table?
Yep. We can do that. If you go to values, add field, notice
Oh,
it has
okay.
calculated field.
Oh, okay.
I can filter this. So I can filter it by year and say only show me. So once you select year, it kind of gets you out of the dialog, which is a little annoying. But then you go in here and say, what do I want to see? Let's say I only want to see 2005 and 6. So I click OK. And now it updates. So here's all your 2005 data. And scrolling across, 2006. Another thing you might notice, if you pay careful attention, look at the months. Can anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture and why?
It's alphabetical. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's alphabetical.
For some reason, in Google Sheets pivot tables, it doesn't recognize the months the way Excel does. Excel puts it in proper chronological order. So the way we need to fix that is, and it's not gorgeous, but we just put the 2-digit trailing or leading month number in the actual name. So it's a little ugly that way, but that will get it to go in the right order in the pivot table. Good thing I only have to do this 12 times. And one more time. And now we're in proper chronological order. Okay. Because in the tables, when it's looking this up, it's looking these up as strictly alpha values, not numeric or date based, even though they were derived, right? It has a date in there, but in fact, now it renders it as a proper date, 1/1/2017. So let's try something. Let's see if I can format these. Hold on, this might actually work. I've never tried this before. Format number, more formats, more date and time. This has day and month, so let's just say we go like so. And click apply. That works. So now it looks pretty again. So what we did was we effectively turned the result in the table into a date base, because before it was just strictly looking at JAN or APR. So April was first because it fell first alphabetically. By actually coding these based on the first of the month, and you always want to do the first because every month has a first day, not every month has the same last day. And then we formatted these in the table to look the way we really want them to. And now I can sort of justify these properly so they line up better. Not that it matters, but I'm a little OCD when it comes to that kind of stuff. But by reconfiguring it to actually look like a date and then formatting it to look like the alpha part of the date, now the pivot table works and looks beautiful. Show you another cool trick. So Excel has these kind of preset formats for, I'm going to just pull the filters out altogether. It has these kind of preset formats for how your tables look, right? Google Sheets doesn't have that, but Google Sheets does have something really cool that you can do with this. So I'm going to highlight the whole range where there's just numbers all the way across. In your standard color palette for your fill color, it has this option here called alternating colors. And over here it has, now you can get into preset styles, or you can configure your own down here. So I can use something like this. Let's do green, right? See that? And so now it just makes the table easier to read with the alternating colors because it's clear to see, you know, the lines. All right. And you know, beyond this, it's just a question of sort of having at it in terms of what do you want to see, right? We had a whole thing we got into last time where we started looking at the data by sales rep. So let's go back to the source, and we'll go to data. And if you're used to Excel, what's going to happen is you're going to be tempted to go to insert, because in Excel, pivot tables are in the insert menu. So it's just a little getting used to, because the navigation works a little differently. So it's data, then pivot table. And again, I have a blank report. Let's add in my order total. And for the rows, I want to see my sales rep, which was, oh, we had last name, first name. So hold on, let's fix that. Let's go back here. And let's insert one left. Sales rep, we'll just call it, equals concatenate, right? Give me first name, comma, quote, space, quote, comma, last name. All right, back to pivot table 2 here. And for the rows, I want sales rep. Right, now I've got sales by sales rep. And again, I want year in the column, and I want month in the column. So now I've got each sales rep sales, year and month laid out. And now let's say I want to look at what products they've sold. Well, let's add another field in the rows. So within each sales rep, I want to see, let's start with the category name, because remember, when we get into the individual products, it starts getting kind of ugly. And again, I can resize my column. So exactly what we were able to see in Excel, remember? So we have Andrew Fuller, and here's all his sales by product category, and then within that, by year and month. You could never do this in QuickBooks. In any accounting product that I know of, you could never do this in a report. You could never get this kind of multi-level, multi-layered kind of reporting.
Can you save a Google Sheet as a CSV file?
When you go to File, you can say Download As, and you have Excel, Open Document Format, PDF, Web Page, comma separated values, tab separated values. So yes.
I was just kind of curious. I know that you like to share the sheets with clients. Have you ever, say, downloaded a QuickBooks report or data into Excel, then convert it to Google Sheets and share it with the client? And then
that's how I do it exclusively. I never send Excel files to clients anymore. And you want to see something? Dennis, send me an Excel file real quick to my email address. Obviously, make sure it's not confidential. I'll show you something really cool that I do whenever. So again, the answer to your question is I never even send Excel files to clients. It's either going to be in Google Sheets, or I oftentimes will dump it into Smartsheet, depending on what the sort of use case is.
What's the security?
It's Google Docs security, so it's the mostest, right? Go to my website and go to the course on file management, and you'll see all the lessons on security, which is the first lesson of each section, are free. And you'll see me go through Google's, or G Suite security, and they've got everything. They've got SOC reports, they've got FINRA security, they've got HIPAA compliance. It has everything.
All right. Can you create like a set of folders in the Google Sheets?
Yeah, that's I mean, I just put it here in the root, but yeah, I've got my whole folder structure here, right? Each year I set up a new folder for that year, and I kind of drag in the things I'm going to continue working on and archive the things that I don't need.
Okay, so you have to access that from Google Drive, not the Sheets program itself.
Oh, I see what you mean. No, if I want to see where this sheet is located, you see this folder icon here?
Mm-hmm.
I can click this, and this is where I can move it, but then this little guy right here, you'll see when I move my mouse over it, it's a launcher that says it'll open the folder that contains this file.
Right.
So that's how you navigate. That's how you kind of manage your documents. So that way, if I close the original My Drive folder, I can get back to it very easily. And then from here, I'll show you, how I just reorganize this stuff. So I can expand the folders here. It's not easy to see, but if I move my mouse ever so carefully along the left here, you'll see where it gets that symbol, and I can click and drag to give myself more room. I can go here. I can go Nerd Enterprises. I can go, let's create a new folder here. And so, wait, where is it? hold on. I thought you could just create new from here. If not, just while it's selected, click new, folder. I'll call it ZIWS for Zoom In with Seth. Right, so here's that folder now on the right, but it's also, of course, here on the left if I scroll down. There, so I can click in there. And now if I want to move the file there, I just go back to my drive where it's located. There's a couple ways to do it. I can go here and just drag and drop it, right, from here. Let's get rid of the Excel. I don't need that anymore. And then, so I can drag and drop it from here right into ZIWS, or from the file itself, I can click on the folder and I'll move it right from here. So 2017, I click the arrow because I want to go in a level. Nerd Enterprises Inc. Scroll down to ZIWS, select it, move, done. So I write from within the file, I can organize it. Now Dennis has sent me an email with the Excel file. So I want to show you what I do with these. So I'm going to scroll down to where the attachments are. And this is only because I use G Suite that I'm able to do this. This obviously wouldn't work in Outlook. But when I click, notice it's an Excel file, but I click, it gives me a preview. I'm going to click this drop down here. And, oh, you sent me a macro-enabled file.
Uh-oh. So
Otherwise, it would give me the option to open it with Google Sheets. That's what I was trying to show. Can you send me a regular? Or here, I'll fix it. Watch this.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wanted to demonstrate what it looks like from within the email. But here, so here I can click Save to Drive. Another thing I love. And then I can click Organize. Or I can go here now. And it will be here. And I can, there's a way to close this preview thing. Normally it doesn't bother me because I'm on a much bigger screen. I don't want to open that. All right, let's just sort it by last modified so I can quickly flush his file out. This was you, right, Dennis?
Yeah.
So from here, it lets me open it with Google Sheets. Normally, though, when a client just sends me a regular old Excel file, I click here, and I open it with Google Sheets right from here. So I almost never, ever use Excel. I mean, literally never even use Excel anymore to look at these files. And,
So,
you know, go ahead.
So let's say, for example, you wanted your client to be making the changes, and then you wanted to import it back into QuickBooks. Would you do it as a CSV file? Would you convert it back to Excel, or what?
Well, yeah, I would do all the editing in Google Sheets, then save it as a CSV to do my import.
Okay.
All right, so this one took a minute because it had to convert it, obviously, from the macro-enabled sheet to this. And then it's going to come in with the old, you know, Windows extension appended in the file name. So I as you just saw, I always just get rid of that. But this is great because, excuse me, I can share it with clients. And watch this trick. And this is something Excel obviously cannot do. And this only works in Google Sheets. It doesn't work in a regular Google document. But I can go to Tools and set notification rules. And so I can say, notify me at seth@nerdneighborhoods.com when any changes are made. And I can say either give me a daily digest or email right away. So if I share this with a client and I want to know the minute the client's making changes, this is huge because I set it up like this, hit save, and then as soon as somebody goes in here and makes changes, I'll get emails notifying me. So I'm alerted to the fact that, okay, cool, the client's updating that uncategorized expenses file I shared with them, right? And again, the beauty of this, no emailing back and forth. So a lot of times I use Google Sheets with the clients, but there's also a lot of use cases where I end up using Smartsheet for the same kind of thing.
Seth, I have a question about I don't know that much about how macros work and translating them over, but I actually had an Excel file. We uploaded it, the client opened it within Google Docs and said the macros aren't working.
Right.
So how do you do that? You just don't build an Excel file with macros. You just start from scratch and then build it in Google Docs going forward.
Yeah, because it's a completely different script. So the macros in Excel are written in what's called VBA, Visual Basic for Applications. Google has its own what's called Google script.
It's not like XBasic, is it? Is it like XBasic?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay.
I've never played with Google script before. So because once I learned that, I was like, all right, I'm not learning a whole new language. And most of the times I found that whatever I'm doing with macros can actually probably be, well, I shouldn't say, let me qualify it properly by saying it can often be better accomplished some other way, right? Because what are we using macros for? We're trying to automate something, and there's usually another tool out there by now that will automate it better than sitting there writing a macro. And macros are so dependent on the structure of the spreadsheet being just a certain way. As soon as the shape of the spreadsheet changes, the macros fail. So I've never loved them as a solution for automating things. You know, you have to be so careful.
Do you have like a one or two things you can think of that are some macro solutions that you could use with Google Docs?
Honestly, no, only because I haven't really played with it. You know,
Okay.
like give me an example of something you would use a macro for today, and let me think if I can think in terms of what I would do instead of a macro.
I don't have any because I don't write them yet, but I'm just more seeing if I need to learn it or just scrap it and just start using the Google Sheets instead of trying to dive into that more deeply. So that's
yeah. Honestly, I would err on the side of discouraging you from spending time learning how to write macros. I mean, I learned years ago by recording them, like Dennis referred to, because you could record your actions and then you can go look at the VBA code. And then if you read the VBA code, you can kind of learn and start picking up on things, which is how I learned VBA originally. And so you go in and record something and then you tweak the code and say, all right, well, I wanted to do this one other thing. But again, what I found was all too often it was so sort of unstable because one little change in the structure of the spreadsheet that I'm trying to run that macro on, and the macro fails and even ruins my data. And again, what we're usually trying to accomplish with macros is automating something. And a lot of times I can better automate it with a tool like Smartsheet, where Smartsheet has just a beautiful set of notifications. And I got an email this week, by the way, that it looks like they're trying to make it even better in terms of how you can set up notification rules in Smartsheet to be notified about things. A lot of times what you're trying to do with macros also is you're trying to take a large data set and then cut it up a certain way. So you want to run a macro to take that flat file and cut it up. But what you just saw in pivot tables is often a much better, more efficient way to do that without having to worry about structural changes to the data.
What I've used it for in the past is when I was in the corporate world was like formatting if I want to insert a date, or if I want to insert like a footer down, you know, like that, or do a formatting. I've also done it like in Access where I would string a bunch of queries together then, but they would go in sequence. And so I would just string them as a big macro, and then it would just sort of run like a program.
Right. So again, for things like formatting, I might use filters to filter it down to just the things I want to change the formatting for, and then just change the formatting for what's visible. You know, in Excel, I love the select visible cells command for that reason. In Google Sheets, it by default sort of selects visible cells only. You know, so I've found that there's ways around macros where macros, like I said, and this is just my experience, and I'll be honest, I'm not that experienced with them. And the reason I'm not is because as I started to dive in and try and learn them, I just found it was so unstable because, again, a small structural change in the data I'm trying to run that macro on causes the macro to fail. They're sort of unreliable.
One thing that came to mind is like these PayPal reports. You get those big data dumps out of PayPal. It has like, 17 different kinds of transactions, and trying to like parse the data out of that. So maybe it's just filtering instead of working on macros.
Yeah, in fact, on that specifically, because we're trying to filter out the transactions that don't affect the balance usually, right? I just sort it by transaction type, and I just pull them out in blocks, for something like that. Or again, pivot tables would work really well there, where you can create a pivot table and just set a filter or just select only those transaction types that are ones that affect the balance.
Okay, yes. I'll play with that then. Thanks.
Yeah, those are the kinds of ways that I use to get around what you might be inclined to do a macro for. So, you might even do a Google search on converting VBA to Google script. There's probably something out there that'll do it, so that if you do want to convert a macro-enabled Excel sheet to a Google equivalent compatible, sheet with a script, there's probably a tool out there that'll do it for you. Anybody else? Any questions? It's 9:07, Friday, October 27th, 2017. Have an absolutely fantastic week. Thanks, Troy. Wait, who was that? Adam's gone. Who did that?
Oh,
I guess I'll never know.
It was Kelly.
Kelly.
Oh, it was Kelly. Okay, thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.